that no enemy will ever even dream of threatening America's Navy. There's no Navy even.
At approximately 4:17 local time, three fast-moving Venezuelan patrol vessels surged out of the dark Caribbean horizon and sliced across the bow of the U.S. carrier strike group at roughly 28 knots. Their formation cut directly into the course of the American fleet, forming what appeared to be a menacing water barrier aimed at forcing the group to stop, turn, or back off. Moments later, on board the USS George Washington, a collision alarm sounded. The radar screens lit up, and the distance closed to under 12 nautical miles. A clear sign the interception was deliberate, not accidental. Venezuela was effectively declaring a stretch of international waters as its own security zone, daring the U.S. Navy to react. Yet instead of veering away, the American carrier group held course. The message was unmistakable. Navigation freedoms would not be compromised. What unfolded over the next few minutes would test tactics, resolve, and maritime signal sending at the highest level. But by choosing to confront the U.S. Navy, Venezuela had made a critical miscalculation, and they discovered far too quickly that they were challenging the wrong opponent. If you're ready to follow this high-stakes naval face-off step by step, hit subscribe to our channel, Military Power, because what happens next could change everything in the world of maritime power projection. At 4:19, the three Venezuelan patrol vessels advanced in a tight V-shaped formation, their wakes slicing clean lines across the Caribbean surface as they pushed past 28 knots. Instead of shadowing from a distance, they angled themselves directly into the projected route of the U.S. carrier strike group, moving with the precision of a unit that had rehearsed the maneuver more than once. Each shift of their bow inched them closer to the corridor the USS George Washington would naturally pass through, weaving into the American path in a way that looked like a test, a signal, and a trap all at once. As the distance shrank, the U.S. carrier's bridge detected the abnormal approach. Radar operators called out the tightening triangle on their screens, and within seconds, the collision alarm echoed through the steel halls. Sailors hurried to their stations, fastening gear, checking communications, and preparing for whatever the next minutes might bring. Although carrier groups are designed to handle pressure, an interception inside 12 nautical miles is never dismissed as routine. For large vessels, this range is the psychological and tactical threshold where reaction time drops dramatically. A ship the size of a carrier cannot turn sharply or accelerate away. Any hostile vessel breaching this distance can force a confrontation simply through positioning, and that is why the bridge treated the fast closing formation with such gravity. Despite the early hour, tension built quickly. The Venezuelan vessels maintained perfect alignment. Their bows pointed not toward open water, but toward the predicted movement of the carrier itself. It became clear they were not drifting, observing, or patrolling. They were locking into what naval analysts often describe as an attack geometry, a calculated angle where one turn or acceleration could cut across another ship's bow. What made the moment even more striking was the lack of any slowdown from the intercepting formation. Their momentum held steady, and their navigation lights remained bright and assertive. They were not hiding their presence, they were amplifying it. On the American bridge, the watch officer monitored every bearing change. The carrier's escorts tightened their own formation, and although no weapons were armed, the readiness posture shifted silently and unmistakably. Movements around the deck grew sharper. Orders traveled faster. Everyone understood that whatever Venezuela intended, it was unfolding now. As the gap narrowed further, a realization spread through the carrier's command deck. This was not surveillance. This was not a miscalculated patrol route. The Venezuelan vessels were placing themselves in a direct intercept position, creating a line they clearly did not expect the United States to cross. They were not testing equipment. They were testing resolve. And in those final seconds of the approach, the push toward direct confrontation became undeniable. The pattern was too exact, the angle too committed, and the timing too deliberate for chance. It was a maneuver designed to provoke a decision at the highest stakes. Now imagine you were the American officer standing on that bridge in the dim pre-dawn light, watching 3 fast patrol ships lock into formation and close the distance without hesitation, with alarms sounding, radar screens tight, and every eye on you. Would you hold the course, or would you turn? At the moment the Venezuelan formation locked into its forward angle, the U.S. Navy answered with a move that was as calm as it was calculated. The USS Gravely, positioned on the carrier's starboard side, pushed its turbines harder and began sliding into a new trajectory. The destroyer tilted its bow toward the intercept line, drifting starboard in a deliberate arc that placed it directly between the fast-moving patrol craft and the USS George Washington. Out on open water, speed is only part of the contest. What truly matters is positioning, because the ship that claims the decisive angle first controls how the entire confrontation unfolds. That is why the Gravely's maneuver felt cold, sharp, and unnervingly precise. It did not swerve or lurch. Instead, it cut across the sea, with the confidence of a vessel that understood every meter of the battle space. Up on deck, the next signal rose into the wind as an MH-60R Seahawk spun its rotors to life. The piercing whir grew louder, echoing across the carrier group as the helicopter lifted from its pad and swung into orbit above the destroyer. Its flight path formed a protective ring that could be seen from miles away, demonstrating a common U.S. Navy tactic used in tense encounters. Naval Air Systems Command has frequently noted in its public releases that Seahawk units provide early visual deterrence during close approaches, offering both surveillance and overwatch without escalating to force. This is why the aircraft hovered at a controlled distance, creating a visible reminder that the strike group was fully aware of every angle the Venezuelan ships were attempting to exploit. Below, the Gravely's bridge team monitored the intercept line with steadiness. The destroyer was now acting as a soft barrier, a tool the Navy often uses to expose an approaching vessel's true intention. By occupying the contested path at a sharper angle, the Gravely forced the Venezuelan ships to choose: either adjust their heading, reveal an escalation, or risk a dangerous crossing situation. Analysts describing similar episodes, such as those documented by the U.S. Naval Institute in 2022, have emphasized that these soft block maneuvers allow the Navy to increase tactical clarity without initiating confrontation. The idea is simple. When the United States places a destroyer in your direct line of travel, your next move says everything. For a brief moment, observers could have expected the Venezuelan formation to slow down, widen its spacing, or alter course. Yet none of that happened. Instead, the 3 patrol ships held their speed, maintaining a stubborn, almost defiant momentum as they closed the distance. Their wakes stretched in long streaks behind them, showing no hesitation and no sign of retreat. This refusal to yield added a new layer of tension to the scene, because it meant the Gravely's presence was not enough to change their plan. From the air, the Seahawk circled and captured each shift and angle, transmitting clear footage back to the destroyer. From the sea, the Gravely kept advancing, steady as a blade. As the formation tightened, one truth became impossible to ignore. Venezuela was not simply testing the carrier group's radar or discipline. The refusal to drop below high-speed approach suggested a deeper play, a bid to pressure the U.S. Navy into diverting its course. Yet the American response remained unwavering. By holding its position and controlling the intercept line, the Gravely was quietly making a statement that required no broadcast, no warning, and no raised weapon. The sea may be wide, but the first ship to secure the critical angle dictates who bends and who holds firm. And in this confrontation, Venezuela had pushed forward with confidence, but the U.S. Navy had already begun shaping the outcome without firing a single shot. The next phase of the confrontation unfolded slowly at first, almost quietly, yet every movement carried weight. As the Venezuelan patrol vessels continued closing the gap, The USS Gravely shifted its posture in a way every sailor on deck understood immediately. The destroyer's 5-inch Mark 45 gun, normally kept pointed forward in a neutral position, began to rotate. It did not swing fast, nor did it lock onto any target. Instead, it eased toward the direction of the 3 approaching ships, stopping at an angle that made one thing unmistakable. The United States had entered a state of readiness. Naval photographers have documented similar moments in past close encounters, such as those reported by Naval News in 2023, where a destroyer adjusted its main gun angle during a tense standoff in the South China Sea to signal preparedness without